Welcome to Awakening Divine Wildness. And today I am so excited to be graced by the presence of Michelle Mercier. She has created an online community, a sacred container for women who want to live honestly. And her beautiful tribe is called Create Honesty. I think that says it all. Michelle actually began her career in arts and humanities as an administrator, artist, and teacher. She was featured in multiple media outlets for her work in producing musicals in Boston and received her MS from Boston University in Arts Administration, a nonprofit management. Michelle decided to make the jump to the corporate world, and she's worked with such companies as eBay and PayPal, Bed Bath & Beyond, Citizens Bank. She always exceeded her expectations in her corporate roles, climbing quickly up that ladder, but was never quite satisfied within her heart. Michelle made the difficult decision to walk away from a very high-paying career to follow her dream of helping, inspiring, honesty, creativity, and a better way of living for all of us. The rest is history. But how I met Michelle was one of the best events I've gone to in the past year. She brought the movie Embrace, which deals with body image and the problems that we all have. That documentary was produced by Taryn Brumfitt. And if you haven't seen it, you have got to go and see this movie. It's an eye-opener. I was in tears at points in the film because I identified so much with what those women struggled with. And I know, Michelle, you have too. And that's what really has motivated us to connect, to do this interview, and to bring that message to women about you're beautiful just the way you are. So thank you so much for gracing me with your presence today. You know I love you.
I love you too. Thank you.
And I want to go deep with you.
Yeah.
What are your wounds? What is your pain that started to create honesty?
Oh, goodness. So much. You have to go into the fire at some point and come out, right? So I think if I had to be honest, it probably started years ago. I grew up a childhood, like just call myself a child of chaos, with an addict father. And my way of coping with life was to get busy and to run a million miles an hour and also to overachieve, to be the hero, to, there's no problem too big or too small that I couldn't conquer. But unfortunately, when you go through about 30 years of that, it burns you out. So I think my final pain was caused from, I'd had two children that had serious medical issues, a pregnancy for my second one that was relatively traumatic and extremely difficult. And then, right as I got my second child medically stable, I was laid off from my job. And I like to call that moment, the floor moment that a lot of people speak about when they say usually it's on the bathroom floor, and mine was on my kitchen floor when, I just crumbled. There was nothing else I could take on. I just waved the white flag at the universe, as I like to say. And I listened. I listened probably for the first time in a long time to what the universe had to say. And it was almost like, you could keep running, but we are at the point where, as the universe, we're going to stop you in what you're doing. Enough is enough. You are done. So at that moment on my kitchen floor, with, mind you, my son crying in the background, me crying with him, I think at that point, I just put my hands up and said, all right, I'm done. I hear you. I will respect you in your wishes, universe. And I just knew there needed to be a change from that point on. I had no idea what that change would be. And I did not realize how painful it would be to change, or how difficult, but I knew it had to happen. at that point.
You and I both believe in the law of attraction, and you're
Mm-hmm.
one of those women that takes 100% responsibility for what she's doing, just like
Mm-hmm.
myself.
Yes.
So I think we both believe that whatever happens in our lives, we manifest in some way. So there was something
Mm-hmm.
within you that was calling you to change your path.
Oh,
And
yeah.
you had to
Yeah.
crash and burn in order to get there. And the same thing for
Right.
me, with my alcoholism, my addiction and my depression. I had to crash and burn to get
Right.
to that fork in the road where I say, no, I'm not doing that one anymore.
Right.
It's time to take a turn.
Yeah, and I mean the interesting thing is one of my favorite quotes, and I say it all the time to my father, who is a recovering addict. I say it to everyone I know is, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results.
Right.
But what I didn't understand was I was doing that. I was doing that until I physically and mentally just couldn't do it anymore. Until, like you said, I crashed and burned. But you come out of the fire a new person.
So, what were your first steps in creating honesty, getting involved in bringing this film to the Boston area, putting on that wonderful event
Thank you.
at the theater where we were all being so raw and so honest that night and putting our intentions on boards and filling out I am beautiful and why we thought we were beautiful. I mean, it was very touching. So what were the
Yeah.
first steps in getting you into Create Honesty?
Oh, goodness, Mal, it was painful because, um, it was stopping, I think. And that sounds like such a simple step to stop the movement and stop the rat race. And, you're just kind of in a wheel constantly. But it's also one of the hardest things to do if you have been going a million miles an hour. And if you are, in my case, I like to think of myself as an addict in the sense of I'm addicted to work. I'm addicted to a little bit of escapism in a bad way. So my first step to getting to my honest self was to stop. And I recall having lunch with a friend around the time that I started all this. I think you and I have spoken about this. And she said, I'm going to give you till next December to deprogram yourself. And of course, me being the overachiever, I was like, I got this shit in like 2 weeks. Don't you worry. But no, I didn't. And I had to sit in the silence. And sometimes the scariest place you can be is in your own head. So, when I was moving down the path of starting to create honesty, all I knew was I wanted to build this thing that could allow me to keep myself in check and not go down a rabbit hole to being something that I thought I should be. And I wanted to do that for other women and other just people in general. So I started, by putting out my first blog. And I just basically told a similar story as to what I just told you. And when I put it out there, you hit send and you go, like you have that heart attack when you're putting yourself out there so raw. But the chorus of Me Too's that I got back was absolutely amazing. So the more I started speaking my truth, the more, people that I'd known for years would come to me and speak theirs right back, things that I didn't even know about them, which was so, so amazing. And I felt very privileged, and I still do, to, stand next to these people while they speak their truths. And then, I went through about the summer, and there were a lot of hard times, a lot of ups and downs, a lot of me making sure that what I was doing was authentic. And I think took me about 3 months into it, and I had an aha moment. I remember driving in the car, and I was thinking of something nice I was going to do for somebody. And I remember stopping and pausing and saying, wow, I think it's been years since I made a decision to do something for somebody without an agenda behind it, or without some sort of motive. Just from being in the corporate landscape, you just, it's a little bit cutthroat. So you are always scheming and you're always kind of plotting. Not everybody, but at least I had turned into that person. So that was a big step for me as well, is to get to my authenticity, find my creativity again. And then I saw the preview for Embrace pop up. And I had spoken a lot over the summer, especially, it's bathing suit season, and I have 2 little ones, and I was determined for myself to be comfortable and be able to play with them. No matter where I was, 90 degrees, whatever, I wanted to put a bathing suit on. But I was so uncomfortable, and so were so many women around me. But when I saw the trailer for Embrace, it was the first time I'd seen a message that was like, it is okay. It's okay to look however you look and respect yourself from top to bottom, no matter what size. So when I saw that, I said, okay, let's leap. Leap again. Make a second leap here, Michelle. And I chose to host it. And at first we had to get, I think it was 60 tickets sold. And I was like, I don't know how I'm doing this. I don't know how to sell a movie theater, sell at a movie theater, but I did. And we had over 200 women in that movie theater. And that night for me was emotional on so many different levels. Like you said, the movie itself spoke so many truths, so many things that I think we as women have as inner dialogue every day in our head. As well as for me, it was the first kind of coming out, I guess, with my new company and proving to myself that I could do it. I could do something amazing like that and bring all these women together and, for honest discussions. So, yeah, that's kind of the journey in a nutshell.
Body image it can be like a cancer to our soul. It's just something that we are set up by society to believe that there is a standard, something that we all strive to try to look like. Mm-hmm. And media does this, and all the ads we look at, and the TV, and the branding, and then there are people that just make their living off of this, like the Kardashians and this one and that one. They create this image that young women today think, well, that's what I want to look like.
Yeah.
And no one's ever going to look like that unless you invest hundreds of thousands of dollars having your body put into that type of condition, having implants in places I never knew they could put them.
I know.
Yeah, and so it's not real. It's not real. Right. They're not real. That image is not real. And real people don't live like that or look like that.
They don't. You're absolutely right. And right now I've been interviewing different women and speaking to them about, body image and kind of trying to redefine the word beauty. And, I've spoken to about, 10 or 15 women so far and interviewed, and every single one of them has a story, either whether it's the media or whether it is one kid from second grade or third grade that insulted them about their looks, and they still carry that with them today. It just amazes me. The stories are different, but we're all the same in the fact that it still impacts us. And I always ask the question, would you feel differently if you had seen all different types of bodies in the media? And they all say yes. Yeah. And I also ask the question, please give me a time within your life where you felt like beautiful, like without an inner dialogue, without anything like that. And I've had numerous women say, I can't do that. Not even one. Some will say their wedding day, and I tend to disqualify that. I say just an everyday moment, and they can't give it to me.
I shared with you that as a young woman, I was too thin.
Yeah.
Too skinny. Mm-hmm. And I was called malnutrition and malfunction. And my feet aren't even that big, and someone even nicknamed me the Celtic. It went on. And those words stayed with me for a very, very long time. Those insults, that bullying, it took years for me to recover from that. And it was part of the reason why I drank. Because I had no sense of self-worth. I felt like a freak compared to my friends. So the only way I felt good about myself was to dull the pain, and the alcohol did that. And it did it for a while. But then it didn't work anymore. So that's when I had to come up with an alternative. And the alternative was to really take a good look in the mirror and see who was there. Yeah. And it wasn't a freak.
No, it's beautiful. Yeah. That's what people do, though. They run. They run until they hit the wall. And I did the same exact thing as you're mentioning, but I just did it through work or, accomplishments that look good on paper. But when I had to your point, really take a look in the mirror, that's a scary thing to do. And so people just keep running. But if they just slow down long enough to look and really look at the beauty that is in front of them, it's amazing. And you're right, we're all different shapes and sizes. And just because you're skinny doesn't mean you're not getting to your point. the bullying. And if you're fat, you're just getting a different type of bullying and a different type of inner dialogue.
How do we enforce in young women today? Because I think our responsibility now, having gone through what we've gone through, I know for me, I am so passionate about making sure that this doesn't happen to the young women of today, the teenagers of today,
Right.
what I can do to reinforce in them that they are beautiful just the way they are. There are videos that have been posted to Facebook that are on YouTube of women, young women, 14, 15, 16, who are saying they're ugly, they want to die, they have nothing to live for. And what I saw one once, I burst into tears and I said,
Awful.
how can today a mom not know that a child is going through that? I mean, people, we've got to wake up, we've got to be paying attention, we've got to be monitoring these children to see that they are suffering. What can parents do to tap into that so that they can help their child and reinforce self-worth?
Yeah, I mean, it's a difficult question, right? Because there's so many influencers outside a parent's reach, right? I mean, even for me, my son is 4 years old, but he's already coming home with the terminology, the boy terminology versus the girl. This is a boy color. This is a girl color. This is this. And it makes my head spin because he's 4 and he sees this and they all take it in. So I think that the key is to start the conversations a lot earlier. I think what may be taking parents by surprise nowadays is, for me, these things weren't necessarily issues until you hit middle school. But for some of these girls, I just interviewed a girl the other day, and she was on a diet in kindergarten. So
That says something.
yeah, I mean, the poor thing.
How does a kid in kindergarten know how to diet? I mean,
She did. But again, that's something that's taught. So, and again, that mother probably was doing the best she could with the information she was given. So as parents nowadays, we have more information at our fingertips. We know that, I think one of the statistics I just read, I can't remember the exact number, but young girls would rather get cancer, deal with nuclear war, or lose a parent than be fat. I mean, things like that. Parents need to educate themselves so they can start the conversation a lot earlier. And it's a fine line because you have to know your child so you're not introducing these concepts into their head when they're not even thinking about it yet. So for example, the Barbies with the labels on them that say petite or curvy Barbie or this or that. Sometimes kids are just playing with dolls. They're not thinking about the size. So you have to watch that because if you introduce that conversation, then the kid's thinking about it. So you just need to really pay attention, tune into your kid, and have the right conversations when they're mentally there. I mean, that's the best you can do, I feel like, nowadays. Use the information we got.
There's a lot happening with the use of cell phones with these young people, with the use of
Yes.
social media, with texting, sexting, Snapchatting, all of that,
Yeah.
where they're tormenting one another. And I don't think that activity is being monitored. In
Yeah.
by parents are not paying attention. I see that, and to me that's very troublesome because if you took your child's phone, and not that you're trying to invade their privacy, but you're trying to monitor their safety. I
Right.
think there's a difference, and you need to explain that to somebody that's young, that's in middle school, that's in late elementary, going into middle school. I'm not invading your privacy. I'm monitoring your safety. I want to see who's communicating with you and what they're saying to you. Because what they may be saying and interpreting or their opinions
Right.
are totally wrong. And I don't want you to buy into that. I don't want you
Right.
to believe that that's your truth because it's not. That's about them, Susie or Mary or whatever. That's not
Right.
about you.
Yeah.
And I know for me, God bless my mom, she was a wonderful woman. We didn't have cell phones and all of that then.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think she was aware that I really suffered as much for being so tall and being so thin.
Mm-hmm. So
She
she probably
she
just saw you as beautiful.
she did not pick up on the fact that I was really frustrated, um, that I felt so left out in
Right.
situations. She even, I can remember buying a bathing suit to me for the summer was like my worst nightmare
Right.
because I was so flat chested, and she'd say, "Well, don't worry about that. We're just going to put something in it and nobody will know." But I'd be in the harbor bouncing in the water
Just
because
be
I had
floating out
so
everywhere
much foam
again.
rubber in my suit. I was like a marker, you know. I
Right.
couldn't sink if I wanted to. And she'd be like,
Yeah.
"Nobody knows." Oh, really? I mean, you know, I
No,
thought,
but I mean, instead, it should have been like, we're not going to try to fix it.
right,
You're going to embrace it, to
yeah,
quote
I
Grace.
know.
You're literally
And
going to just take what you are and be beautiful for what you are and shut up,
yeah,
other kids.
no, and she thought that that was the right approach. Well, you know, fill the
Right,
suit, but it wasn't.
right.
You know, let me be flat, let me be proud of it, whatever. You know, I was a
Yeah,
late bloomer. Um, and I
yeah.
just remember that, how tormented I was in the summertime because I'd have to come out in a swimsuit. I'm going
Yeah.
to send you a picture that I found yesterday because, you know, we were going to talk about body image, and I said I had a photograph of me in a bathing suit. You just, you're just not going to believe it when you see it, the size of me. I'm like twigs.
That's crazy. And I mean, going back to what you mentioned about technology, I think it's challenging for parents too because the kids know more about technology. So as a parent, you have to be very much on top of the latest technology and the latest apps and the latest workarounds. Some of these kids can code better than developers that I used to work with.
Yeah.
They get paid a lot of money to do it and they're amazing, but these kids can code around it, because they grew up with it. They don't know an existence without it. So it's a fine line. Again, it goes back to educating yourself. What tools can you put in place? What boundaries can you set? You don't need to be their friend, but you do need to, again, walk a fine line between, discipline and keeping an open line of communication, which is extremely hard, especially with teenagers.
I just so believe in my heart that we have to start with kids if we're going to
Yes.
eliminate this problem for women of
Mm-hmm.
low self-esteem, no sense of self-worth.
Yep. I
Those
agree.
seeds are planted when we're children. And if we
Yes.
can stop that when women are young, that as they mature, they have a better chance of evolving with a sense
Right.
of self and a sense of worth that normally they don't get. And so that's why
Right.
I think it's so important to start with young girls.
It definitely is. I
Yeah.
mean, yeah, we pick and choose our words very carefully. And I mean, I have two boys, but at the same time, they're hearing it too. They're just hearing it in a different way. I think we spoke about before how I had run kind of a little bit of a social experiment where I was having people who were attending an event that I was running write I am statements, and I had four men. They ranged the ages, and every single one of them wrote I am strong, and every single one of them chose the blue marker.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, granted, it's not a large sample size, but that itself, in a small way, was telling for me. It's okay that you write something else. It's okay that you pick a different color.
Mm-hmm.
So I think, yes, women, we definitely need it because we have so many millions of dollars are spent every year, or billions probably, on telling us we're not worth it. But men have a different kind of battle that they're fighting. So either way.
Tell me a little bit about your book project because I think it's just fascinating how you're going to interview all these women about their personal struggles with the image of being within their minds that they're overweight or not pretty or challenged in some way that compromises how they've lived.
Right.
It's compromised their happiness, their relationships, it's compromised their careers. Tell me a little bit more about that project because it's something that's so needed.
Yeah, I mean, so I'm choosing to interview women of all ages, all shapes and sizes. I'm staying away from the tweens just because, again, to our point, that's a whole separate discussion. But um, so far, I've done about 10 or 15, and I'm asking them a same set of 5 questions around body image with the media influence, their first encounter with understanding or even body awareness in general. And it's all with the intention of kind of putting together this cumulative story that can redefine beauty. So that is the working title right now, which is Redefining Beauty. Because out of all of those women, not one, when I ask them to define beauty, says anything to do with looks. It's confidence, it's, compassion, it's the ability to captivate a room when you walk into it. None of them say, oh, blonde, tall, blue eyes, size whatever waist. Nobody's thinking that way. Mainly because they have all of these stories that have come across their paths. And for me, it's interesting because not only are they look all different, but they're from different cultural backgrounds as well. My friend Margot, who I interviewed, she's an amazing, amazing person. She is Armenian, and nobody ever looked like her, ever. In the magazines or at school or anywhere else until the Kardashians came around. And now people will literally say, "Oh, so you're a Kardashian," and that's how she is identified. That's how people now say to her. She's like, "I guess so," but she's a different kind of beauty according to the typical model. And another woman I spoke with is of Asian descent. So to her parents viewed, larger, more voluptuous as a sign of wealth because you weren't out working in the field. So she was always told to eat more, and she's, tiny. So it's very interesting. And I think, people keep asking me, well, how are you going to put it together? What's the book going to look like? And it's evolving over time as I'm collecting the data, which is one of the most amazing parts of the whole thing.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Isn't that funny, that your friend, oh, are you a Kardashian? I mean,
oh, that's what you are as a Rick. Just lumps them all in.
That's the last thing I want to be. When I was 6 feet tall and weighed 100 pounds, I wanted to be 5'2", with long blonde hair, blue eyes, and big boobs. And I didn't have any of that. But now I have grown into what I am physically. But what's more important to me is what I am from my heart.
Yes, absolutely.
The love, the compassion, the purpose that I have to serve others, to help women heal broken hearts, to help them reclaim their self-worth, to show them that it can happen regardless of what happens to us, regardless of the path that we travel. Our past doesn't define who we are today unless we allow it. You can be a victim the rest of your life. You can let the past dictate your future, or you can embrace this present moment and create an incredible future moving forward.
Absolutely. I mean, you couldn't have said it better, Mal. I mean, I've been rolling over the quote recently in my head. I can't remember who said it, but it's when you're going through hell, keep on going. And I want to reframe that. And I might actually write a blog about it later. When you're going through hell, stop. Stop and take another turn, or just stop and be present and, really connect with yourself on what's going on, or take a breath, or any of that stuff, because there is meaning in the hell that you're going through at some point if you're listening hard enough. There's always some sort of meaning in the lesson and everything in life.
Yes.
But, I feel like to we were speaking about before, when you are crashing and burning, there's so many lessons on the way down that, you really need to listen to so that you can build back up all the time.
I believe that these things happen to teach us something for our own evolvement and expansion as human beings.
Yeah.
That's why we have these challenges.
Mm-hmm.
And as you said, when you're in hell, recognize you're there.
Yeah.
Why are you there? What brought you there? And now what can you do to get out of it?
Exactly.
Rather than just to keep running through it.
Right. I mean, I think there's always been a mentality, I feel like, at least in my life, around just keep pushing through, push through, run faster, push through, either run away from it or, just hit harder, hit back harder. Mm-hmm. And I don't want to do that anymore because I don't think that's the correct approach to take. And I think a lot of people, especially nowadays, there's not, quote unquote, enough time. There's a lot of obligations on people, whether it's children or work or what it may be, and a lot of dysfunction happening, that they just keep running. That's all they do is run or numb.
Well, you can't, as I say, I have a family member that just is nonstop. And I really believe it's because you can't hit a moving target.
Yeah,
So,
exactly.
you know,
So
and
right.
so that's the way of avoiding the pain, which you just said,
Hmm.
is to keep pushing yourself, keep going, never sit still for a minute, to allow your feelings to settle in and to
Right.
get present with them.
Because when they settle, they are uncomfortable as
Yeah.
hell. But you know what? That uncomfortable is a sign that there are amazing things to come. But you just have to push through to the, well, I don't want to say push through to recant what I said before, but you just have to settle into it and really feel it. And you'll be amazed on the other side of what you come out with, when you do go through that pain.
Uncomfortable is okay.
Yeah.
Uncomfortable can be a great teacher. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, definitely.
So, where can our listeners find
Find me
Michelle? Yes. Give us
in
your
my office. No.
domain, your Facebook, all of that.
Yeah, yeah. So, I mean, createhonesty.com is my website, and all of my social handles. I'm on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook right now.
I
And
know, I
they're
follow
all,
you everywhere.
yay!
Uh,
I will find you.
yeah.
And those are all at Create Honesty as well. So, facebook.com/Create Honesty, or Instagram, same thing, Create Honesty, all over the place. Because that's what
Love
I
it.
want to manifest. So,
Girl, you're doing good work. Yeah,
thank you very much,
you're
Mal.
bringing a nice light onto a subject that really needs to be broken open
Thank
and
you.
brought out there, just the way that movie did, you know?
It
And you
does.
and
It
you're
does.
doing the exact same work and creating a safe container for women to have that conversation.
Right. And to pick their heads up and realize that there is more than checking off the boxes. Because at some point, you're going to be done checking off your to do list and you're going to look around and you're probably going to say, is that it? And it doesn't have to be. You just need to make a different decision around it.
It's always a pleasure. I love talking to you. We could go on forever.
I know. I know.
Yeah.
I love you too.
So thank you so much for joining me today. And I look forward to connecting with you again in the very near future.
Thank you so much, Val. Thank you.
Oh, be blessed, girl.
You
Thank
too.
you. Bye.
Bye.